Look, America, we have DEA evidence and we're fighting fentanyl. Let's be honest with ourselves. From the perspective of constitutional rights and American freedoms, there are two things that the U.S. government has initiated, implemented, and perpetuated that has not only set fire to the idea of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it continues to pour gasoline on these so-called unalienable rights. It's the war on drugs and the war on terror. And we should all know by now that both slogans are euphemistic. In reality, both wars, now conducted simultaneously every single day, fleshes out as a perpetual war on the American people. In reality, the war on drugs and the war on terror gives federal agents like the FBI, DEA, CIA, and state and local authorities justification to trample rights in the name of national security and keeping American communities safe. And what's the trade-off? You give away some of your essential liberties and we'll promise you security. And just like the blue shirts of the TSA, it's all just expensive security theater as they perpetuate another avenue to bleed the American tax cattle through rights trampling schemes. And you thought Kash Patel, the new director of the FBI, was going to be different. But he's not, because every time he opens his mouth, he says the same old thing every FBI director says. Let's take a listen.
We have a new FBI, and I'm humbled and honored to be its leader. We have a courageous Attorney General in General Pam Bondi. We have incredible leaders throughout our law enforcement community.
That's gun grabber, red flag, gun confiscation law, Pam Bondi.
Be at the FBI, the DEA, HSI, CBP, ATF, and the list goes on. I've been privileged to meet so many of them in my first month on board here. I look around and I see state attorneys generals that have been doing the work hand in glove with local, state, and federal law enforcement. And I told you when I got this job that we would crush violent crime, that we would take the fight to anyone who wishes to do harm to our way of life and to hurt our citizenry, that we would go to the ends of the earth to bring them back to face American justice produced right here in this very hall, in this very building. The FBI stood up an interagency task force at our Manassas office, and in just 2.5 short weeks, we have arrested over 300 violent felonies, gang members, including MS-13 and 18 gangsters. We have taken seizure of hundreds of pounds of narcotics and hundreds of weapons and currency and illicit goods.
How many American rights were trampled in the process of this drug grab in this cartel elimination program? How many American rights? Because we know when they initiated the drug war and the war on terror, even today, you've got the blue shirts of the TSA telling you to take off your belt, take off your shoes, put everything in the bin. It's the radiation and molestation practices of the blue shirts of the TSA. You're losing your rights every single day in American airports. You're losing your rights every single day still under the Patriot Act. You're losing your rights every single day under the drug war. It's not a war on drugs. It's not a war on terror. It's a war on the American people so that they can justify their own existence, the CIA, the DEA, the ATF, for goodness sake. We know at least the ATF should be eliminated. We know the DEA and the FBI and the CIA have ruined American lives. If you question that, just ask the kids at Waco. Oh, that's right. You can't because they're not alive anymore. Just ask Randy Weaver and his wife. Oh, you can't because the ATF and the FBI shot Randy Weaver's wife in the face while she was holding her child.
That's just what you can do when you put the brave men and women of law enforcement in one room and get the hell out of their way. And we are going to do that in every state across this country. In Massachusetts alone, in the last couple of weeks, they have indicted federally over 50 violent gang members and narco traffickers, seizing almost 200 kilograms of fentanyl.
We're going after fentanyl. It's a war on fentanyl. Don't worry, we're going to leave American freedoms intact. We're just going after the fentanyl. And you're going to trust the law enforcement agents who are decidedly anti-Second Amendment all across this country? If they were given an order The local law enforcement agencies would come to your house, kick in your door because they got a tip that you might be a danger to yourself and others under red flag laws. If they got a tip that you had an automatic weapon, the ATF would be surrounding your house right now. And having an automatic weapon is not against the Second Amendment. It says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There's no limitation. There's no classification on what kind of arm you can keep. But the ATF sees it different. Local law enforcement agencies see it different. Therefore, they are your enemies, and he is applauding them.
There is no time for us to waste on this job. And that's why under President Trump's leadership and General Bondi's leadership, we've been instructed to get after it. And that's exactly what we are doing. We have to especially get after it when we lose an American citizen every 7 minutes to a drug overdose. We have to especially get after it when a man or child a woman or child is raped in this country nearly every 6 minutes.
If we lose an American every 7 minutes due to drug overdose, how about we get terrorized every second of every day by the domestic terror cell? If you're really interested in eliminating vicious gangs, then why wouldn't you go after the banksters? Why wouldn't you go after the biggest terror cell on American soil, the domestic terrorists of the IRS? Why wouldn't you do that, Kash? Because you're not allowed to.
They get after it when there are 2 homicides nearly every hour in this country. Violent crime is exploding, and it is a direct result of the border invasion that occurred. But thanks to this administration and thanks to your relentless work on the field of battle to protect our citizenry, we are finally...
Most of those people that cross the border don't commit crimes. Americans are committing crimes against Americans. Am I saying that drug cartels are not a problem, that immigrants who don't respect Americans are not a problem? No, not at all. But the biggest problem is we have been cut off by the federal government from defending our own families against any kind of attack, no matter where it comes from.
We are saving American lives. We are providing our children with safe schools and playgrounds so that they can be educated and grow up in a fun neighborhood.
Did you ever once in your life look at the FBI or the ATF like that? The FBI and the ATF are here to save our lives. They're here to make sure that our children grow up in fun communities. It's ridiculous.
We all had the privilege of doing in this great community and in this great country. So when you go out there and you see your communities working with this interagency task force and you see our brave men and women of law enforcement, it is a team effort.
You mean the cowardly men and women who hide behind bushes and billboards just waiting for you to go 7 miles an hour over the speed limit so they can get you? Those brave men and women, the brave men and women that will pull you over because you didn't pay the state license plate tax, the ones who will pull you over and put that little gadget on your window saying that your tinting is too dark so that they can economically terrorize you, those brave men and women, the brave men and women who got a call and they've already shot your dog and now they got you held at gunpoint, they've already flashbanged your family, those brave men and women, is that who you're talking about, Kash Patel? The brave men and women like, say, in Mesa, Arizona that killed Daniel Shaver, they had him surrounded. This guy was trying his best to comply with the rapid fire commands and they eliminated Daniel Shaver. Those brave men and women are the ones who brutally and savagely terrorized and tortured Johnny Wheatcroft in front of his family in Glendale. Those brave men and women? How about the ones who shot and killed Johnny Hurley after he saved the entire Arvada Police Department from a rogue madman with a gun? Not exactly brave men and women, a bunch of frickin' cowards who then get heroes' funerals.
This is not a one-stop, one-man, one-group, one-agency operation. It happens at every single level. Just yesterday, I was honored to meet with hundreds of law enforcement officers from around the country, and I was even more humbled to graduate 245 police officers from the FBI National Academy, representing 48 states and 24 countries. That is how you put the mission first. You bring these brave warriors who have already dedicated their lives to safeguard our communities. You bring them together to do it again and again and again. And the thing that inspires me most is that they have a relentless desire to make sure that they wake up and end the day in a community that is safer to you all.
No, they wake up with one goal in mind: no matter what, I've got to make it home safe. And you were talking about the honorable and heroic and warrior-like men and women in blue, the ones who will initiate civil asset forfeiture against you at the drop of a hat. Just like the Nevada Highway Patrol did on Stephen Lara, stealing his life savings from him when he harmed no one. Those brave men and women, those warriors, Kash.
Just last night, 7 narco-trafficking thugs from Colombia were extradited and returned to American soil to face American justice. Just the other week, 29 Mexican narco-traffickers from Mexico were repatriated here to America to face American justice. Just in that group alone, you are talking about over 5,000 kilograms of narcotics that would have poured into our country. And you'll see the type of damage that just a little bit of fentanyl can do to our children. And
how about a little bit of Zio bankers? How about just a little bit of politicians? How about the damage they can do to us, Kash? Why aren't you taking the FBI, the CIA, the ATF? Why aren't you taking all of the federal and state and local agencies and marching up to Washington's District of Criminals and arresting every single one of the 12,000 lobbyists who run that place? Why aren't you going to every central banking institution and arresting them for ripping the people off through fractional reserve banking? That's how, as a matter of fact, you know what? That's how drugs are incentivized across this country, because of the free, cheap, easy credit of the fiat currency petrodollar Federal Reserve note. That's how it's happening. So if you want to actually do some damage in this world as it relates to freeing Americans from the chains of their bondage, why don't you go after the banksters and the political parasites? But you won't, because you can't, because they won't let you, because they got you on a chain.
we're talking about thousands and thousands of kilos. Yes, that is a national security crisis, but the good news is the men and women of law enforcement, in conjunction with the brave warriors that we have in Congress, who have the courage to stand up and fight.
Wait, the brave warriors you have in Congress that are owned by AIPAC, that are controlled by Israel, those brave warriors of Congress? So not only do we have brave warriors behind the badge, wearing costumes out on the street, terrorizing the rest of us through civil asset forfeiture and red flag gun confiscation laws and all this other nonsense, we also have brave warriors in the halls of Congress that are dangling from Zio bankster AIPAC strings. This guy is clueless.
Fight for their representatives and fight for their constituencies, are leading the funding and legislation we need to make sure we get this mission done. This is not going to be a short-lived process. Certainly at the FBI, it is something we wake up to every single day and go to bed at every single night. And the thought is singular. What is the best way we can safeguard our citizenry? What are we doing worse? What are we doing better? And what's in between? And when we have those answers for you, you see them delivered in the halls of justice in the courts across this country. And that's the great work that is the tip of the spear. This mission must be 24/7, 365 from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean. But beyond that, we must go extraterritorially, like I've just told you about. We must go down to the furthest reaches of the planet to make sure that we bring you the justice that you have voted for in this new administration. And we
got to go beyond the boundaries of the United States to go initiate justice on other people. And we need funding for this. That almost sounds like empire building, Kash. The very empire building you have claimed for years you're against.
We will never, ever stop fighting violent crime. That is the priority of the FBI along with national security. And we will put every resource and every manning that we have on that mission. The FBI will play a very large part, and our interagency partners and our local and state law enforcement officers will start putting more and more and more handcuffs on the bad guys, and good cops across this country will be unleashed to be good cops on a daily basis. And the lasting promise that I will leave you with, and this is a message to the law enforcement community: you have always had the backs of the American people, so the Federal Bureau of Investigation and me as its director will have your backs. Thank you.
Law enforcement has always had the backs of the American people. The law enforcement who told you, hey, Anthony Fauci said you got to wear a mask, you need to wear a mask. The ones who initiated all the COVID 1984 by George Orwell crap. The ones who for decades have upheld Nixon's war against drugs, which isn't a war on drugs, it's a war on people. The ones who actually played a part in the war on terror. The ones who are for civil asset forfeiture and red flag gun confiscation laws. Those are good cops. Those are the ones you're going to work with. Those are the ones you're going to paint as a hero. This guy is not on our side. It couldn't even be more clear. Leave your thoughts about this for the world and the global thought police in the comment section below. If you haven't done so already, like this video and share this video with everybody you know, because there's a lot of people who are hoodwinked by Kash Patel, the new FBI director, and the new FBI deputy, Dan Bongino. They're all going to do the same things. They're going to get funding from the corrupt Congress, and they're going to do bad things in the name of stamping out fentanyl. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon. We got a lot more videos coming up because we got to break the left versus right paradigm lie. I'll see you in the next video.